Okay, welcome back. I'm still on page 287 talking about the dual controls. And this could be something no more than, my manager has to approve, all checks over $10,000 or whatever, right? Okay. Now, dual controls could be other things. I mean, the example of, I'm getting ready to launch a tactical missile or a nuke, and it takes two people and they have to turn the keys at the exact same time. Two people have to agree that it's okay to cash this check or it's okay to launch this missile. Now, there's some other crazy ones out there, and one of them is just called job rotation. In other words, I want to roll people around, and it's great for them because it gives them a lot more experience in other organizations, but it also fixes a problem of, I've been there too long and I really know how to exploit the system because I've been the only warehouse manager in the entire organization for the last 15 years. So I know exactly how to manipulate things. Yeah, okay. But if you did job rotation, then someone else would be going, wait a minute now. And here's one that's crazy as heck. It's called mandatory vacations. And you're going, what? Mandatory vacations? Yes, you must have someone else do your job for a while. Not you, and you're nowhere around, okay? So that someone else is doing your job going, wait a minute, what on earth is this? This doesn't look right. That kind of stuff. Garden leave. If I'm getting ready to go to a competitor, I can pay you to not work. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but I really don't want you to be going to a competitor like this, and so I'm going to just continue to pay you for a while. I know. Sounds crazy. So principles of least privilege. You don't give admin password to everybody, because not everyone needs it, right? This is obviously an important concept that you probably already have from some previous security thing. Grant only the rights that they need to do their job. I mean, if they periodically need some other rights, don't give it to them. Have them temporarily elevate, and then afterwards you reduce it. Privacy and security of personal information. We talked about, PII a great deal. Okay, so let's talk about inside the organization, not available to the outside. So this is an internal website. Could I have the name and title and organization and maybe their email address and their office phone? Is that a consideration for privacy? No. Could you have someone say, I don't want my name listed? I have seen a scenario where it was an inward facing website still, but this person had gone through a nasty divorce and they didn't want their ex-spouse to even know where they were, know what building they were in, what room they were in, anything. Okay? So it's like, and yes, we honored that. It's called directory information. If you get into this whole concept of what is private and not, directory information means common things that everyone could have. Now, you don't show this to the outside world. In my world, we had a picture, we had your name and your organization, and it showed up on an organizational chart. You could click on that. It would bring up your info, all cool stuff. So should I have an organizational chart on the public website? Ouch. All right, let me just go to our website. All right, so I'm going to go to TAMUCT. Come on. And I'm going to go click on the little guy here, and I'm just going to type in org chart. And yes, we have our org chart on an outward facing, well, okay, no. Yes, normally it would show up. Is that a good idea? Particularly since in our organization, I can't show you, but in ours, it shows, who is the chief of the IT department, and here's all the people in the security. It gives you the names of the people who have keys to the kingdom. And if you were going to do a targeted attack against them, you know exactly what their names are, what their email addresses are. I could send email directly to them. So maybe in an outward facing one, you have the org chart, But you don't put names in there. You put phone numbers in and lots of other things, but maybe not their names. And so let's talk about on page 289, they talk about consideration for temporary or contract employees. This is complicated because if you're going through a temp agency or a contractor, you're going to have them responsible for vetting the employees. In other words, they're going to do like the background checks, not you, okay? And perhaps it's not as rigorous of screening, because maybe it's temporary. So from a temp service, this is not your employees, but they still sign up with all the policies, right? Doesn't matter, right? But access is granted to those things that are only in the contract. If they came to you and said, look, I'm contracted to be, doing database work, but I really need this over here, and you go, I'm sorry, no, you have to go talk to your, contracting officer to find out if that's legit. So if there's a contract, we tend to treat our contract employees identically to our normal employees. We made no real distinction between the two. I will tell you the one place that caused problems is if we gave somebody like an on-the-spot cash award. I could do that with my employees, but I couldn't do it with the contractor. And so instead we just had, parties. I bought pizza for everybody, that kind of stuff. Thanks for a job well done. And everybody, and, gave them a gift certificate or something out of my own money. So typically contracts are for specific tasks like maintenance or custodial or guard force, that kind of stuff. And there are easy targets for social engineering, I will confess. And I need contract specifics. And I'll give you the example of if I'm contracting for custodial work, which is a very common thing. I need to decide, do I let them in the secure conference room? Do I let them in the secure, server room? Those kinds of things. And the answer probably is no. Now, on the other hand, you basically have to tell people, like, you don't have snacks in the, don't drink or eat candy bars in the server rooms. There's not going to be that many trash cans in there that shouldn't, have anything that's going to track bugs. And so you're going to be responsible for doing the cleaning yourself. Maybe bring a vacuum cleaner from home, that kind of stuff. All right. A consultant. This is probably a temporary guy or gals. It could be internal or self-employed. It could be a person by, maybe somebody who retired a year ago and hey, I'm going to hire that guy back as a consultant. It could be a specific one-time thing. So if it's an employee you know about, maybe vetting them is going to be easy. But otherwise, if you're a security consultant, I want to see your badge, so to speak. I want to see your credentials. Business partners. Oh, this could get complicated. If I gave my business partner access to one particular table in a database, and the classic example is, I'm Walmart and I sell lots of Coca-Cola products, and I allow Coca-Cola to see the current demand on the product to help them ship the right number of Diet Cokes. Okay. But they need to understand what the security requirements are. And in the story we talked about in 2C, is maybe you ought to ask them to show me your credentials here. Maybe anyone who has access to my system, I really want them to have Security Plus, for example. And so in a business partner, you need to be really, really clear on what information that is being granted here. Okay. And so non-disclosure agreements, that kind of makes sense. That's just very common, particularly in a business arrangement. And then what happens if I have a partnership and one of the partners has really, really strict security and the other does not? You're probably going to have some leveling in here, and you probably ought to bring yours up to theirs. Okay, I'm just saying, if that happens, you probably need to go with the stronger one wins kind of a thing. We're using two-factor authentication. You guys are not. It's like, yeah, okay, we need to do that. That kind of stuff. So your business partners certainly should not have less security. If you are using multi-factor authentication and they are not, you need to say, I'm sorry, you need to fix your shit. Oh, pardon my vulgarity there. Okay, so we've reached the end of this chapter, and I'll see you guys in the next video.